Today we're going to review Oerlikon's Work at Heights policy, detailed in our SOP 91, and discuss the Work at Heights permit process. Be sure to fill out the SH9 training attendance log upon completion of this training and turn it into the HSE department. Working at heights is a life-threatening activity we do on a routine basis as part of our job duties. In fact, falls are the most common workplace injury. In order to ensure safety of our employees, Oerlikon has developed safety rules and guidelines to ensure safety while working at heights. Not only does this policy apply to Oerlikon employees, but it also applies to temporary employees, contractors, and visitors. All employees, including temporary employees, contractors, and visitors, must adhere to this policy at all times. The HSE department is responsible for conducting Work at Heights training and retaining all permits for 6 months. Permit issuers are responsible for filling out permits, which includes identifying all fall hazards, identifying all safety measures, completing a risk assessment, assigning any fall protection measures that must be done, and verifying the completion of these fall protection measures. The best way to prevent fall injuries is to never leave the ground by keeping both feet on the ground. When feasible, use tools that will let you reach the objective. However, if you can't avoid working at heights, try and prevent the fall from occurring. This can be done by using mobile elevated work platforms such as a scissor lift or installing guard railing. When this isn't an option, choose to minimize the distance or the consequence of the fall. This usually involves wearing fall protection harnesses connected to an anchor point by a lanyard. When all else fails, use a ladder. Work at height permits are required whenever work must be done at heights greater than 6.5 feet. That is the distance from your feet to the ground. Scaffolds are not generally used at this facility. However, in the case that we do need to use them, special attention needs to be paid to the distance from the scaffolding to any outside power lines. The following guidelines must be followed when using scaffolding. Scaffolds need to be on a level ground, and the foundation needs to be strong enough to hold the weight of the scaffold, tools, and the people on the scaffold. For additional stability, fixed scaffolding must be braced and tied to a permanent structure. Work platforms must be fully boarded. Safe access must be available, such as an internal ladder system. All equipment must be inspected prior to use. Additional inspections must be conducted every 7 days and after any alteration or suspected damage. Tags must also be used to indicate the status of the scaffolding. Mobile scaffolds have the same general rules along with a few additional ones. Outriggers and wheels must be in the locked position. The scaffold tower must be secured to the structure in service. When moving the scaffold, pay attention to any power lines, overhead obstructions, holes, and ground conditions. No person is allowed to remain in the tower during moving, and always move the scaffold by hand at low speeds. Powered access platforms or mobile elevating work platforms are equipment such as scissor lifts or boom lifts. In order to use these, you must be trained and authorized. A pre-use inspection must be done. You must wear the appropriate fall protection while in the lift, and never move the platform while in the raised position except for small adjustments less than 3 feet. Scissor lifts and boom lifts are common examples of mobile elevated work platforms that we use here at Oerlikon. Mobile platform steps, such as the ones depicted here, are excluded from this policy. Ladder use should be avoided whenever possible and should never be permitted under the following conditions: when work exceeds 30 minutes, if strenuous work is required, around energized components, and if 3 points of contact cannot be maintained while climbing the ladder. When planning work with a ladder, you should determine the appropriate type of ladder, including the type and material of the ladder. A pre-use inspection must be done, and any defective ladder should be removed from service. Ladder use around power lines is prohibited. The feet of the ladder should be on a firm and level ground. Ladders should project at least 3 feet above any landing. Extension ladders shall not be separated and should overlap by a minimum of 3 rungs. Never stand on the top platform of a stepladder unless it was designed for that purpose. Do not carry loads up a ladder if it will prohibit you from following the 3-point of contact rule. There are 2 main forms of fall protection: fall restraint systems and fall arrest systems. Fall restraint systems prevent the fall from occurring, such as guard railing. Fall arrest systems aim to reduce the negative effects that can happen after a fall occurs, such as hitting the floor. Safety harnesses, lanyards, and approved anchor points are the most common form of fall arrest systems. Only when no other method is practical should fall restraint or fall arrest systems be used. And fall restraint systems should be picked over arrest systems, since arrest systems do not actually prevent the fall from occurring. Fall restraint and arrest equipment must only be used if there is a suitable anchor point. When using fall arrest systems, the height and the possibility of a swing from the work position must be considered. The choice of lanyard must consider the activities being done. A double lanyard with shock absorbers are necessary if the worker must move during the job. A single fixed lanyard is enough when used in a mobile elevated platform. Suitable rescue procedures must be in place for fall arrest equipment. A rescue procedure is a pre-planned strategy or procedure designed to safely retrieve someone who has fallen and is suspended in the harness. Only authorized employees may use fall protection, which requires a separate training focused on fall protection. Falling objects are another hazard associated with working at heights. Things such as tools can cause significant injury if dropped on another employee. Therefore, it is critical to cordon off the area below the work at heights activities. Access to the 240 membrane roof requires a permit, and work around unprotected edges will require guardrails or the use of fall protection harnesses. See SOP 91 for specifics. The top section of the permit includes general information about the task being done, including names of the worker and permit issuer, where the work is being done, and a brief description of the task, date, and signatures of each of the permit holder and issuer. There are 2 types of permits: non-routine and standing. Standing permits are a one-time issued permit for routine work such as PMs. Standing permits must be issued by the HSE department, and a new standing permit must be issued if substantial changes occur for a task such as changing from a scissor lift to a ladder. The next 2 sections have to do with identifying all potential fall hazards that the worker may be exposed to while performing the job, and determining if the worker is qualified/trained to perform the job, such as being trained on lockout tagout, using lift equipment, or trained on specific work instructions, to name a few. The risk assessment section looks at the external factors that may increase the risk of a fall. If any of these are marked yes, controls must be in place to limit the risk of the fall. These will be identified in the Fall Protection Measures section. Fall protection measures are installed in order to eliminate or minimize the consequences of a fall. These include controls such as full body harnesses with a lanyard on aerial lifts, installing guardrails by roof edges, or de-energizing any electrical components. The last section is for determining a rescue plan. A rescue plan details what must be done in case a worker falls. How are you going to get the worker to safety without endangering the rescuer? An example would be using the lower controls of the aerial or boom lift, or using a lift to reach the worker who could be dangling from their lanyard. This concludes the training for the Work at Heights permit issuers. You are now authorized to complete a Work at Heights permit